You're not lazy. You've just mastered the art of winning in your head. You've built the dream body, started the business, had the perfect comeback, the perfect life, the perfect version of you, all without ever leaving your room. And for a few minutes, it feels real, like you're becoming something, like you're closer. But then the high fades and the guilt hits, because deep down, you know you didn't move an inch. You just visited a life you're too scared to actually build. The truth is, daydreaming isn't harmless. It's addictive because your brain rewards you for things you never actually did. You get the dopamine without the discomfort. And the more you escape into fantasy, the harder it becomes to take real steps in the real world. This video isn't about motivation. It's not about how to focus. It's about rewiring your brain to stop mistaking imagination for action. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll learn the exact switch that breaks the fantasy loop and gives you back the one thing it's been stealing, your momentum. Let's begin. Chapter 1, the high that steals your hustle. You've already succeeded. You've lived the life. In fact, you've probably done it this week, maybe today. You saw yourself walking into the room, confidence radiating. You imagined their reaction. You built the business, got the abs, made the money, proved them all wrong. And in your head, it felt real. Because in that moment, it was. Your brain couldn't tell the difference. It rewarded you like you'd actually done it. Dopamine, relief, power. You didn't earn it, but you got it. And that's the first trap. You're not lazy. You're just addicted to winning without doing. Most people think procrastination is about fear or laziness. But if that were true, why does imagining success feel so good? Why does visualizing the win scratch the same itch as earning it? Because your brain is built for efficiency. And if it can get the reward without the risk, it will. So you dream, plan, script the comeback arc in your head like you're already on the documentary. And after that mental movie ends, you feel a little calmer, a little more accomplished, even a little proud. But nothing's changed. You didn't move. You didn't start. You just felt like you did. And when that happens enough times, when the simulation feels safer than reality, you start living there. Not because you're weak, but because the high is easier to earn. The success in your head doesn't require mistakes, doesn't ask you to fail publicly, doesn't ask you to struggle for months with no applause. It just gives you the feeling of becoming without asking you to become anything. But here's the part that stinks. The more you daydream, the more you delay. And the more you delay, the more you disown your real self, the one that could have made it happen. And that pain, it's quiet, but it builds. Because deep down, you know exactly what's happening. You're not just visualizing, and you're not getting mentally aligned. You're binging on a simulation that keeps you from touching real progress. And the worst part? Eventually, the fantasy stops feeling exciting and starts feeling like a lie. That's when something darker takes over. Not ambition, not vision. Something you're too afraid to name, but you feel it every time you stall again. Chapter 2. The fantasy is just fear in disguise. The first time you built the fantasy, it felt like hope. The second time, a blueprint. By the fifth time, it wasn't inspiration anymore. It was a shield. A shield from the one thing that could threaten everything you've been dreaming of. Reality. Reality is messy. Reality doesn't follow your script. It forgets your name, ignores your effort, questions your worth. It delays your wins and amplifies your falls. But your fantasy? It's clean, it's quiet. It makes you feel like everything is inevitable. And the more vivid it gets, the more dangerous it gets. Because now the fantasy isn't just a vision, it's an identity. The ideal version of you becomes a character you escape into, instead of a person you show up as. You don't even realize it, but you're falling in love with that version. You admire them, worship them, and keep down. You fear you'll never live up to them, so you protect the fantasy. You avoid testing it, because if you try, you risk proving you're not as capable as you are in your head. And that fear is worse than failure. So you sit, you tweak the plan, rehearse the transformation, refine the story you'll tell when you actually do something. And the irony, you're not just procrastinating, you're grieving. Grieving the version of you that never came to life. Grieving the time you'll never give back. Grieving the potential that quietly slipped into imagination and never made it out. That's the moment most people give up. Not with a meltdown, but with a sigh. They stop dreaming. Not because they don't believe in more, but because the fantasy became too painful to carry. But if you've made it this far, you're not one of them. You still feel it. Buried under the shame, the doubt, the overthinking, there's still a spark. Now we rebuild Chapter 3, shrinking the identity gap. Here's the real problem no one talks about. You're too aware, but not embodied. You've read the books, watched the videos, written the plans, visualized the habits. You know exactly who you want to be, but you're not living like them. You're rehearsing their lines, but not showing up on their stage. And every time you don't follow through, every time you delay that first step, you widen the space between who you are and who you're supposed to be. That space, it's the identity cap. And that's where all your shame lies. Because now you've seen what's possible. You've built that version in your head, but you're still waking up with the same habits, scrolling through the same distractions, avoiding the same hard choices. And that hurts more than failure, because at least failure means you tried this. This is silence. This is wasted potential with Wi-Fi. But here's the twist. You can retrain it. Not with affirmations, not with another vision board, with proof. The tiniest action done consistently starts to rewrite the code. Not a huge goal, not a breakthrough. Something dumb and real. 10 minutes. One uncomfortable message. One task that doesn't make you feel powerful, just present. And when you reward that, when your brain gets a hit from motion, not imagination, everything changes. Chapter 5. The comeback isn't a vision, it's a choice. There's a quiet moment no one sees. It's not heroic, it's not viral, it doesn't even look impressive. It's you sitting alone. No motivation, no energy, just this dull ache in your chest telling you that your life doesn't match who you are. That's the turning point. Not the big goal, not the breakthrough idea. The moment you stop protecting the fantasy and start building something real. I remember the night I hit it. I'd mapped out this entire month of content. Perfect strategy, vision, crystal clear, but I hadn't made a single thing. And one night at 11:43 p.m., no music, no setup, I opened my notes up and wrote 3 real lines for my next project. That was it. And I thought my brain flinched because there was no hit, no applause, just the strange, grounding silence. It was the first time I found myself re-enter reality, and that night didn't change everything, but it did change direction. That's all the comeback needs. Not a revolution, just a reversal from fantasy to friction, from overthinking to one physical move. And if you're here right now, still listening, you already know what that move is. Stop thinking about doing it. Stop planning how you'll feel once it's done. Just move. Because the fantasy version of you isn't waiting. He's fading. And if you wait much longer, you'll mourn someone who never existed. You lived in your head long enough, planning, rehearsing, becoming someone amazing, but only in theory. The real shift, it doesn't start with a breakthrough. It starts with motion. Small, messy, real. Because clarity doesn't create movement. Movement creates clarity. And if you're serious about rebuilding, you've got one more loop to break. Overthinking. That's the mental trap keeping you stuck even when you're ready to move.
And from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for watching. And see you in the next video. Bye.